Hello, everyone. It is such a great pleasure to be here today and to be welcoming you all to the episode 37, Digital Transformation in the Pharma Industry. I'm pleased to announce that this webinar, as perhaps many of you are following, it's part of a series of the ITU Digital Transformation webinar series. This is a series that have been going on for a long time and very, very interesting and exciting series, and I encourage you all to keep watching us. My name is Anna Maria Moshkurti. I represent Unorthodox Ventures, a family office which invests in medical devices and biotech. Myself, I am connecting today from Lisbon, from the Web Summit Live, and I'm very, very excited to actually introduce this webinar where we will be exploring the paradigm shift witnessed by the pharma industry post-COVID-19. As we know, there has been a lot of changes post-COVID-19 in the pharma industry, in every industry, and the world is really shifting from the traditional pharma approach, value chain operations approach, to really looking at the digital transformation to meet its medical needs. And this is really what we will be focusing on today. Now, before we delve into the heart of the conversation and the heart of the discussions, which I'm sure many of you are here for, please take a note a little bit of how we will be running the session today. All questions from the audience will be taken during the Q&A session after the presentations, which will be run by our moderator. Participants can submit their questions by typing in the Q&A window. So for all of you, you can look at the Q&A icon that is seen at the bottom of your screen. So please click on the Q&A icon. There you can type your question. And please also indicate the city and country you are connecting from. We have a very global and big audience today, so it would be great to see where you're connecting from. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the event website. So please have a look at the event website to check the recording later if you want to take notes, etc. And as well as the team has kindly agreed to make the presentation available on the website. Now, to begin today's webinar, I have the honor and pleasure to pass the floor to the incredible director of the Telecommunication Standardization Bureau, Seizo Onoe-san. Sir, you have the floor.
Colleagues and friends, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to our discussion today. And I thank you, co-organizer, the International Metaverse Institute, for your support. This is the 37th episode of our Digital Transformation webinar series, I very much encourage you to review past episodes online. Recording of all ITU's workshops and webinars are available on our website, creating a very rich archive of expert-oriented content. Our discussions today will explore how digital technologies are contributing to the profound transformation that are seen in healthcare and pharmaceuticals. The pharma industry is becoming even more data-driven. Automation is helping limit the scope for human error, making key contribution to patient safety. Patients connecting with pharmacists via secure telepharmacy platforms for consultations, medication management, and remote prescription filling. Technologies in fields like AI are helping to analyze vast amount of health data to identify trends, predict patient needs, and optimize inventory management. We are gaining new abilities to ensure that the essential medicines are available when we need them most, such as during global health emergencies like COVID-19. We will learn more about prospects for innovations at this webinar. In the global dialogue on AI for good driven by ITU, healthcare experts often share their view that AI and healthcare are natural companions. That's why ITU is working to step up AI's contribution to healthcare with our global initiative on AI for health. Together, the World Health Organization and World Intellectual Property Organization. We must, of course, also pay due regard to risks that we may need to mitigate. This is especially important in healthcare and the industry entrusted with a great volume of sensitive data. We must be guided by good ethics. We must protect data security and patient privacy. And we must support healthcare professionals in developing the skills required for an increasingly high-tech working environment. Thank you. I extend my gratitude to all our speakers and participants today, and I look forward to our continued work together to ensure that healthcare becomes more efficient, accessible, and attuned to each patient's unique needs.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Onoe-san. This was great and thanks for emphasizing on the potential of digital transformation for the pharma industry. These remarks really helped us set the stage for today's discussion. So we are very, very grateful for them. I would like now to really encourage the audience to get ready, typing in their questions as the next session comes in, and not to forget to really use the Q&A and not the chat. I see a lot of action in the chat, so thanks to everybody for letting us know where you're connecting from. Remember to put the questions in the Q&A button. We will now move on to session 1 on rewriting a healthier future with technology. This session, of course, promises a lot because we have incredible speakers with us, but it is my great pleasure to introduce and pass the floor to our excellent moderator, Gauri Deoras, who is the consultant of GD Consulting and Coaching, as well as a coach at MindHug. She's a seasoned professional. We are so lucky to have her here. She has worked with the European Medicines Agency as well as Deloitte, and she will do an amazing job, I'm sure, at moderating this session, which promises quite a lot. Thank you so much, and Gauri, you have the floor.
Thank you, Anna Maria. You're always very inspiring. So welcome again to everyone here. And as we start with our first session, which is creating a healthy future with technology, without further ado, I'd just like to set the scene that as ITU is leading this session, we'd like to have our speakers engage on topics that are relevant to digital transformation, but also understand, where really is the role for globalized standards, or maybe even national standards, and how can they converge and create a very facilitative framework for new technologies to be adopted in pharmaceuticals so that we can reach our patients faster, we can provide better quality of care, and the people that are working behind the scenes to do this are able to work as efficiently and really bring their talents to what they're doing. So without further delay, I'd like to start off with our first speaker, Mr. Haider Aleg, who's representing Allegory Capital. He is the general partner and who has extensive experience in the pharmaceutical industry, specifically in commercial operations. He will speak to us about operating models in the pharmaceutical industry and how they're increasingly being digitized, but what does the landscape really look like when we look at emerging technologies? And I think he has very interesting insights to share with us. So Heather, if you're ready, please I think we're waiting to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Do you hear me well? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me, and pleasure to be with you and to be with your audience. So my name is Haider. I lead a team here at Allegory Capital, building a non-drug asset portfolio for different pharmaceutical company or medtech companies. And I have a background transforming pharma from within in different capacity. In some companies you might know, in Ferring Pharmaceutical, or Guédon Richter, or Novo Nordisk, Novartis, the usual suspect. What can I share regarding this brilliant introduction? We said many times that the industry is on the verge of disruption, and we like to always call that name, but we've been very slow at it. Have we been successful at it? This is still to say, but from different spectrum, what we can say is that now the ecosystem is forcing a change. What we define as healthcare today might not share the same definition as healthcare tomorrow. Which means tomorrow maybe you will have a healthcare model and a sick care model, and more industries are entering that healthcare model, such as wellness, food, and many more. So this is the first trend I see, is that we literally see new enter in the system that are disrupting and forcing pharma to react. The second big trend I can share with your audience is the industry is now becoming more and more a service platform, more than a molecule producer or medtech producer, which means now the emerging technologies, emerging channels that we have at our disposal are forcing the industry to think of new experiences, whether you are a patient, a doctor in a clinical setting, or if you are a consumer, right, which is not yet a diagnosed patient. And the reason for that disruption is because audiences are now educated by companies like Netflix, Spotify, Amazon. There is a level, a threshold of service that is now forcing pharma to say, the industry needs to bring that level of service as well around the molecule. And what the realization was that maybe the industry cannot do this alone, building things from within because of the size of the regulation needed to launch such a change. And also launching a digital health program cannot be launched the same way as a molecule. And that is also very, very specific to pharma. You have here one of the maybe single industry that can bet on the future, billions of dollars for the next 20 years. And failure, unfortunately, maybe I will not get some friends saying this, but if you are in a launch excellence team and you are launching a future blockbuster in pharma, failing a launch is not an option, right? So, and that culture of agility with, digital health, new tech that needs to be tested, iterated, requires the help from an external ecosystem of innovators such as startup, big tech, and you name it. I'm just stopping here to see if this resonates, and I see some of the questions on the questions here. There is indeed, Alfredo is pushing something interesting. There is a much greater focus from governments and payers to switch the focus on the prevention rather than, you know, the treatment aspect. And we hear a lot of value-based healthcare. If those terms mean something to you, this is also pushed by regulators to say we need to pay for what really have an impact. So value-based healthcare access are two big streams that are pushing change also to pharma economic models, and hence data and services models are part of the story now for many big pharma. I hope this resonates with your audience. As I speak, I say a lot of things here, but these are the trends, the macro trends I see on the landscape.
Great. So it's really good to see the questions coming in. You know, it's nice to see that everyone's engaging actively. And thank you very much, Haider, for that very condensed summary, but very comprehensive, because you gave us an idea of really where all the pain points are, but where the opportunities are. So if we could just park that for a moment, we will definitely return to this during the Q&A. I would just like to check in if our second speaker is ready, because Gregory, have you checked in? Hi, there we go.
I'm ready.
All right. So I'd like to introduce our second speaker. We have Gregory Krieger here, who's actually a co-founder of a firm that actually empowers hundreds of healthcare professionals globally through software as a service solution to deliver better patient experience. This is really at the, very close to the patient or the consumer, as someone who's, seeking a healthcare service but may not be diagnosed yet. And I also understand that Gregory helps to bring digital solutions to more underserved parts of the world by serving as part of the governance structure of the FISIS Foundation. So we'd love to hear a bit more about this too. So if you're ready, Gregory, I'd like to give you the floor.
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. It was a bit last minute, but I had the time to put together a little presentation where I'm going to share you what we're doing and the key conclusions that we could draw from these 5 last years serving health professionals and medical establishments. So I'm going to share my screen. Just a moment. Voila. So our company is called Caris. I mean, this is the legal name, but our product is being distributed under the name of Katerina. And our vision is to radically improve the lives of patients, the health of communities, the joy of healthcare professionals. And to comment on that, that's really my vision and the vision of the team. We want to have impact. But we will see that it is easier to raise money, to generate revenue than to actually really have impact. And that's why we are going to launch, we'll speak about it as well, a new platform in a month. So this is our current digital health solutions. So we have Katerina for Doctors, an all-in-one software to manage a medical establishment. Katerina for Laboratories. This is for those who know, it's an order entry. It means it's a platform where people can order laboratory analysis and visualize results. And a companion, this is a device that we had to implement because in the medical field, you have to very often you have to interconnect with local devices and connect them to the cloud. So it's a little IoT device. This here is a little look into Katerina for Doctors. So it's really an all-in-one. So it has an EHR, it has the calendar to manage appointments, it has a directory, task manager, invoicing. So this is a product that we are commercializing essentially in Switzerland. You can see here a bit how it looks. This is a consultation. So we have a bit our concept of a consultation. We want that when a doctor is in the consultation room with a patient and that he opens this page, that really from a blink of an eye, he has this kind of 360-degree vision of the medical data that he has at hand for this patient. And so these little module, vital signs, consultation notes, medical documents are really modules that from one doctor to another, it will be completely different. The interface will be configured different with different modules We have multiple modules to generate documents. It really depends on the specialty of the doctor and so on. Currently, we have in Switzerland now more than 30 medical establishments working on it, more than 113 healthcare professionals, almost 100,000 patient records, and monthly we have more than 10,000 consultations which are being done on the platform. The platform generates all the medical documents. It means really that the doctor doesn't have to do anything else outside Katarina. He can do really everything from Katarina, prescribing drugs, electronic signature, sending documents per email to his patients, and further. To talk a bit about the positive aspect, I mean, the conclusions that we could draw is that actually it is easy to sell the software to young doctors as well as older doctors. Medical software is so behind, and doctors, even though they're maybe in their 50s, 60s, I mean, at the end of the day, they drive a Tesla or they have an iPhone, and they understand that they have been left behind, and they spend maybe 12 hours a day at work, and they want to really have a nice tool, which is cool. The challenges, of course, are the development costs. Developing an app like this, I mean, it took us 2.5 years until we could really go to market with it. Meaning that, I mean, you know how much it costs to develop software these days. So I mean, before you can really launch something, the investment is quite large. The major issue we had, I would say, is really with migrating existing medical establishments. All the expectation management about a migration from a previous software, or sometimes previous multiple softwares, towards our platform is always something which is difficult. You have to coordinate with the company which is providing the previous software the establishment had. They're not really happy to see their customers leave, so it's not like they really want to help you. Yeah, that's quite tough. I'm just looking quickly into if there are any questions. So no, we do not yet meet, I mean, there's a question here about if we meet HIPAA requirements. We do not yet meet HIPAA requirements, but we are GDPR. Most of, I would say, the providers that we're using are HIPAA compliant, but we didn't do an audit to see, okay, what's now the gap between where we are in terms of compliance and HIPAA. Why is it more expensive to develop software today? Well, I mean, it's more expensive because salaries of developers have just gone through the roof these last 5 years. So of course, it's more expensive. Okay.
Thank you for your introduction, Gregory, and definitely I think your medical software sounds like it's going to change the digital health landscape once it goes live. And it's great that you've really thought through the patient journey and what doctors go through trying to integrate that into one consolidated platform. So you're really thinking along with your end users. Let's just revisit the questions when we get to the Q&A part, but I've noted some of these questions down. I think they're very interesting things to discuss in terms of development costs and how we can actually streamline those. Gregory, did you want to add any closing remarks on the session?
How much time do I still have? Because I just present you one of the things we do, and I mean, it would be sad if I cannot talk to you about laboratory medicine. But how much time do I have?
You have a few more minutes. Go for it.
All right. Well, you know what? I will go short because I don't want to miss out on my conclusion, which is the most important take. So we have a laboratory order and result platform, super nice, evolving. We're growing really fast in Switzerland. We have one of the biggest hospital conglomerates who's a customer. We do now, this was in June, we were at 18,000 results a month. We must be now around 30,000 results a month, so it's growing fast. This is our cloud, our IoT device. But really for the closing remarks, what I wanted to say is at some point, what we want is to have impact. And the problem we have with a software, like with these solutions that we have, is scaling on an international level. The lines of code which are required to support the different healthcare systems around the globe are just, I mean, it's just too much. It's too much work. And so we were really thinking like, okay, what's maybe a better way to have a global impact, and to make quality healthcare accessible to everyone everywhere. And we realized that at some point, maybe the best way is to really start from scratch. And of course, if we start from scratch, we can't benefit from, I'd say, the different healthcare systems around the world. But however, if we are working with patients who are ready to pay from themselves for medical services because of just the buyer experience as a patient is just horrible. Whether you're in Switzerland, whether you're in France, wherever you are, I mean, consuming healthcare services is a complicated thing. It's not like just going on Zalando and buying yourself a new pair of jeans. And so this is the new platform that we're launching, and we will really like completely change the buyer experience to make it so good that even people who could be, if they would go through the normal medical system and get refunded, will prefer to consume medical services through Katarina because of the entire buyer experience for the patients, which is just going to be the best the world has ever seen. Voilà.
That's definitely a very strong, a strong kind of closing remark there. But we really look forward to seeing the developments of Katarina, and I like your spirit very much. So definitely, let's discuss this further in the Q&A. And if the audience is still with us and seeing lots of questions coming in, that's really good. We've got our final panelist for the session before we move further into these interesting questions that you're all bringing forward. So I'd like to bring, actually bring to the table Bassem Hegazi, who is the co-founder of Consulto, which is I would say, comprehensive digital health solution that employs artificial intelligence, machine learning, but really geared towards improving the patient experience. I won't go into the details, I'll leave that for Bassem, but it has value propositions for the pharmaceutical industry as well as the broader healthcare system. Bassem's also served as an advisor at the World Health Organization, so he's really gone deep into the policy angle, especially around digital transformation and digital healthcare and how that actually benefits the healthcare system with the pharmaceutical industry as one of the key stakeholders. So we're very lucky to have that dual perspective here, where he's actually building and creating something for that system, and was able to also have a bird's eye helicopter view on the policy environment. So without further delay, Bassem, if you're ready, you asked for the final spot so you can reflect on what everyone's been saying. So we're really keen to hear from you when you're ready.
Thanks so much, Gary. Really appreciate it. Hear me well?
Yes, go for it.
Amazing. So thanks for giving me the last spot. I enjoyed so much listening to everyone. And I think, yeah, so I'll start quickly you made amazing introduction, but I'm going to just speak a little bit about Consulto. We are, I think, an example of what Haider was speaking about in the very beginning, that there is a transition, not just in pharma, I think in healthcare broadly, that the roles of what healthcare delivery is and pharma, medtech is changing significantly. And this is in part by the trend on consumerization, and in another in the part that technology and everyone is trying to leverage this amazing technology that we have from, as we mentioned, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and different things that are happening around us. And the result is something that is really different from what everyone and think about the boundaries between these industries. So that's a very broad thing, but I'm going to speak about Consulto now. So we're building a virtual clinic platform. So it's a platform that helps doctors form virtual clinics for different conditions. You can best think about us in two ways, in a dichotomy. The first is that we're a technology company. The second is that we are a healthcare delivery institution. Regardless of this dichotomy, what's really important, how do we work, what's our mission, and who do we work with as customers, and where are our value propositions. We work on a bigger mission to help people have complex health conditions. So anyone who's having a disease that is affecting multiple organs, it could be multiple diseases, it could be one disease, for example, a rare disease like multiple sclerosis that affect many, many organs, and therefore you need many, many doctors. Simply, the healthcare delivery today just fails to address the needs of these people. And so does drugs, so does medical devices, and so on. What we need is an integration of all of this. What we do at Consulto is that we help the healthcare system converge around these patients. Initially, we started with the doctors because simply this is the immediate interface with the patients. But soon we discovered that there are so many diseases that don't have effective drugs, and there are many companies, pharma companies, are working on amazing drugs on their pipelines. However, they cannot access the right patient in the right time, and more importantly, the right diversity and the right amount of patients. Hence, we saw with the COVID pandemic, even before, but most important, during and after, the shift towards decentralized trials. So we started to think, okay, now we have this very solid value proposition for providers and healthcare professionals. However, pharma has a problem that we can solve, and patients can get access to these drugs earlier, and pharma can access our patients who can be in Switzerland. This is where we are right now. We're also slowly moving to other neighboring countries and Middle East, where we can access these patients who are complex and very particular, but also they are not very big in numbers. So that's one value proposition that we bring to pharma. The second is, as you mentioned, and Haider as well, was on patient engagement. It is no longer that pharma can no longer survive by simply just manufacturing and selling drugs. They are increasingly in need to integrate in the full life cycle of the drug, including after it is dispensed and how it affects the patient's life. And I think the very interesting thing is that there is no clear direction of the pharma companies why they are doing this. And they know that it's important. We know it's important. But I believe that true transformation is when we don't know the results, when we don't know exactly why we're doing it, but we're so convinced, we're believing in the process. And eventually, we believe that this would bring a good outcome. Regardless of the ends, the process is the important thing. And what we are working on is that, okay, we connect the patients, we connect the doctors together in this collaborative model, team-based care, very similar to what happens inside the hospital. However, the doctors are in a distributed ecosystem, meaning they are not in the same building, they are not confined to the physical realm, but also the patients themselves are having a different role in their healthcare. Patients can visit the doctors physically, they can visit digitally, but more importantly, they are having a tailored tool. So that's a patient companion that is not generic. So every patient group, every patient population have a patient companion app that is tailored to their needs. The patient companion app can serve different roles. It could be, at the very least, a communication tool between everyone and a way to present information about their treatment plan, their drugs, and other things. But it could also, with the right approach, could be an adjuvant therapy. So there is a growing trend as well that drugs alone are good, digital therapeutics alone are good, but it could be much better if you tailor a digital therapeutic to one drug. And this is one area that we are now exploring, how to add, it's not to build tailored digital therapeutic for every drug when it starts, but already there are many drugs in the market, and there are many patients who want to have digital therapeutics. How can we combine both in a scalable way? That's a challenge that we are having right now, and many pharma companies that we're talking with are also looking at. Actually, there is another one, but the value-based care, which Haider also mentioned. I think there is the aspect of the outcome that, again, pharma is shifting and has to shift from this idea that I manufacture the drug, I proved it works, I'm going to sell it, and that's enough. We need to, there's a shift towards the outcome. Is this drug effective? And this notion is not only important in the end, again, of the outcome and how drugs are being reimbursed. That's incredibly important. However, there's another thing. Actually, it's a whole shift from the role of pharma, again, as manufacturer and seller, to actually a partner in healthcare delivery. In order for pharma to work with value-based care model, there need to be contracts between the pharma and insurance companies, pharma and providers, and there need to be certain level of communication and collaboration between all these actors. And we find ourselves perfectly positioned between all of those. We have a value proposition for insurance. We work regularly with insurance and in structuring bundled agreements, bundled care cycles and bundled payments. And also we work with healthcare providers, naturally through our platform, and we provide a value proposition for pharma. We want to play a role in this area. How can we connect our ecosystem? It's not even to get money out of it. It's more to bring value to the patient, and our money is being, our business model is already, we have many areas where we create value and we get revenues. We need more and more actors who are able to connect the dots between the different parts of the industry. We can no longer think of the industry as insurer, pharma, payer, provider. Like, I think the organization is not the future. I think the competitive institutions of the present in Europe and in the US are already moving in this direction. And we want to be positioned in the middle of this. Last is the direction toward personalized medicine, which we support through our advanced analytics, real-world evidence that we collect through our different tools. And of course, generative AI and all of this, we employing different things for different problems. But I think technology is not important. I think what's really important is how we use these technologies and the trend of why we're doing this. And the reality is, in order to reach the outcomes, as we said, in value-based care, or to reach a good experience, as Haider was mentioning, and to move towards consumerization, eventually we need to personalize. We need to personalize patient pathways, we need to personalize patient journeys, we need to personalize the medication itself, we need to personalize maybe the patient companion on top of a medication. What we need is to have that finally that the patient feels and actually get an experience that's so individualized to them that they feel that the whole healthcare system is working synchronously to their benefit, exactly as they feel when they go for when they have a banking experience, when they order food, when they order something from Amazon, they feel that they are at the center. And healthcare, we are at the this is not the future, this is the present. We can do this. So I think I'll stop here, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to have. Thanks so much.
Great. So thank you very much, Bazen. That was very comprehensive once again, and you brought forward so many different angles, especially around personalized medicine. Very important that every patient has their own unique journey. How the technology itself isn't important, but how you bring it together, how you implement it in the healthcare system. Considering also the virtual clinic aspect, that typically patients are experiencing multiple symptoms, multiple conditions, and bringing care to them as accessibly as possible is one of the main outcomes here. And as all the speakers have rightfully mentioned, pharma is switching more towards a service model, so creating value for the patient beyond just creating the product with proven efficacy, with data that this product, a medicine, actually creates or helps them with some sort of condition, reduces the symptoms or helps cure it to a certain extent. But now this is also really shaping the care model, right? Engaging directly with the patient through a digital approach, understanding what their needs are, addressing maybe multiple complaints that they might have in the virtual space, and getting to the patient, right? So as you mentioned, rare diseases, very small population. Sometimes I think 1 in 100,000 people in the world will experience such a condition. So technology is a very powerful way to reach this patient, where you might not be able to do this as quickly, maybe through registries or to reaching out to different medical experts around the world. And with the technology, we're able to bring this together maybe faster, maybe in a more secure way through an encrypted way, maybe beyond borders, right? These patients could be somewhere on the other part of the world and you could be based in Switzerland. So these are really, really good applications, and I would say use cases for your technologies. So just to kind of summarize that together, right? We started with the general trends that Haider brought along. We spoke about this kind of virtual assistant, but it's very comprehensive, where doctors can make their lives more easier when engaging on their day-to-day tasks. And now we have this model for tailored, individualized, personalized care that integrates real-world data. So basically, when a product is being used in its real-world setting, in a day-to-day life outside a clinical trial, vice versa in a virtual setting with machine learning, predicting patient behaviors, understanding, what type of direction they're moving in, how could we address this better, and what care do we bring for them. So we have actually about 15 minutes, which is really good. We've done really well for time, and we have several questions pouring in. So maybe, okay. Maybe I'll just ask the panelists, how would you like to do this? Would you like to do a question each, or should we just pick a question and kind of start a general discussion where all three of you can provide your input? I'll leave that to you. Just to make sure this is a really participative process.
I can truly, I got inspired by some of the last questions.
Okay.
But there are some good ones in there, so I'm going to just circulate and just, if my colleagues in the panel can find one to bounce on, and that would be nice. So there were some questions from the audience on the interoperability of data between healthcare systems. And it's true that today it's kind of amazing that you can send money to everyone in the planet, right? I can send you, X dollars to your pocket, you will receive it. But somehow having a second opinion on my diagnostic is a pain to do, right? So because of many layers, regulation, and everything. And even some people don't even understand that diagnostic, right? It's just a question of getting access to that knowledge. What I can share is more and more healthcare systems are building a digital health space that is going to compute that interoperability. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a revolution, right? It's not going to be a new things from scratch. We need to build on top of what exists. And you can see that kind of as a translator between healthcare system. So if my electronic health record in Sweden is in a specific database, coded or encrypted in a certain way, tomorrow you might have a European healthcare data exchange that is going to translate it into something readable by friends if you are doing medical tourism, for example, right? So that is the interesting bit. Of course, now everything with data privacy in mind, consent is going to be big in this. And there is a new trend as well that is coming, which is a data donation concept. So the fact that you are not donating your organs to save lives, but you are going to donate your data to save lives. And tomorrow we might get incentivized by payers to share our data continuously so that we might enter healthcare programs and help others being healthy subject, for example. And the second point I wanted to just come back to, because it's something I worked on a lot. So we talked about value-based healthcare in the intro, right? What does it mean? And more stress is made on healthcare system to reduce cost, right? And a lot of it is on the prevention side. But when you need to treat the, today payers will establish a value-based view on the efficacy and the safety of your drug. And you will have likely a comparison to another line of therapy. So if you have a standard of care that is here, and you're launching your drug at that level, you are kind of trying to get within, an optimization of 10–15%, and you have a floor price that you don't want to hit because otherwise it's risky for your R&D to come back on your feet. So when you have a breakthrough, this is where you see those fast track, because there is an unmet need and there is no brainer, you need to accelerate to get as much treatment as needed. But when you are like in that very niched, positioning of launching an extra superiority from a clinical perspective, That's how we usually in this industry, we classify efficacy. It's a superiority between this new drug and the standard of care. And that usually is monitored on an observational study, longitudinal study for many, many years, like phase 3, phase 4. I hope this answers some of the questions.
Thank you very much. So maybe I'd like to reflect a little bit on what you've said. So you've really illustrated the role of data, some policy changes at the European level that might actually incentivize stakeholders to provide data for the purposes of patient benefit, right? And improving some of these technologies and systems that are addressing patient care. Could you maybe just very briefly reflect on, how organizations like the ITU or other global organizations that are involved in standard setting could play a role here? How could they facilitate this process?
Was it for me? Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe take a moment. We can come back to this towards the end of the discussion.
I think
yeah.
I can complete you on this. I think that we need to have a body that is going to set the conduit for this interoperability. When I compare to the financial industry, which is also regulated, you have two companies, I will call them like that, Visa and MasterCard, kind of wired the entire world to facilitate the access for banks to do their jobs, right? If you look at pharma being a scientific leader in their therapeutic area, right? I look at pharma not being just a factory producing pills. I look at them as a scientific organization as well that is innovating, investing a lot in R&D, right? If they are kind of the protector, the realm of the science around the molecule and the therapeutic area, what we are discussing is we miss the railroads to really interconnect this globally. And I think this is where organizations like ITU could say, oh, here's a new standard, here's a new protocol, here's a new priority, like we see in ESG a lot, right? We see those sustainability goals. We don't talk about communication goals, which is as much is important, to be able to understand each other as humans and organizations, right? And this is where I think there is a gap in this industry. We don't really talk to each other. It's siloed, like any else organization, but here even more because we do kind of this job like lawyers because of the regulation.
Absolutely, yeah. So I have a reflection actually based on what you mentioned and reflection in answer to your question as well. And I think this role of communication and being the neutral platform for communication is incredibly important. I saw it, for example, in WHO, like concepts like universal health coverage. Like I remember very well, like less than, like let's say a decade, people were not speaking about it in the same way. Primary health care, like 30, 40 years ago was nothing. And now we have very solid understanding. So I think even at the ITU level, the conversation could be more concrete. And the point that I want to mention in particular is not about just concretely is about data. And the issue with the ITU thinking or the whole UN thinking or international organization thinking is the key actors are states, are countries, are ministries of telecommunication, health. And this is super nice because you can provide the frameworks and so on. However, we need to think who holds the power. Is it the government or is it the companies? We can clearly we know the answer is not the countries, it's actually the companies. So in the debate of who holds the data, Apple, Amazon, and Google, and these ones, they actually hold more data than definitely the entire US. The picture is not different in many other countries. In particular in healthcare, who hold the data is big companies with electronic medical records. So for example, Gregory was mentioning that they have now 10,000 patient records. They have 10,000 patient records. Epic has, so you are starting, and I hope you have like millions and gazillions of patient records in the future. But what we see here today is that other companies already have lots of data. So Epic, for example, they have hundreds of millions of patient records. And there is no one who can force them to share this in a certain way, except if they want to share it in a certain way. So I think the conversation of the role of the ITU is first to show that power, to stop talking to governments only, and to actually acknowledge that the power in data is going beyond the hand of governments, and to find different ways to deal with this issue by actually acknowledging that power and find a mechanism that incentivizes these companies in the same way that the UN was able to incentivize the governments to collaborate. We need to find a mechanism to incentivize the companies who hold the power to collaborate in sharing the data.
Perfect. So just to quickly summarize on that one, your viewpoint is that organizations like the ITU can first identify, where the power is concentrated in terms of facilitating the data exchange, and along with the governments, the private organizations that are engaging with patients and hold patient data, so incentivizing, but also maybe creating a framework that enables this exchange, protecting the rights of the patients and making sure that vulnerable data is protected, but also utilized for the purposes of communication, exchange, patient benefit. Does that sound about right? Okay.
If I may say something, I think there's also another challenge that we must look at, and this is the willingness of doctors to collaborate. And I mean, when you speak to doctors, they're in a how can I say, they're in their medical establishment, they're in their bubble. They will not make twice the revenues next year than they did last year. It will be flat, it will be the same. There's not much change. And if you show up and you say, well, we want you to share data and so on, what they will see is change from which they, as individuals, do not benefit. They already have so much administrative stuff that they have to make sign to the patient and all this. And patients then come, to the reception and they ask questions. Sometimes we launched a mobile app for patients to have their records on their phones. 3 years ago, we had to withdraw it because doctors told us we cannot have our personnel doing customer support all day long to talk to the patients about how this is working, how they open an account. And it's the same thing, I believe, when it comes to sharing data and so on. You will have to have a conversation with the doctors. It's going to be difficult. You will have to have they will have to have conversations with the patients, and nobody's going to pay them for that, or maybe somebody's going to pay them for that. So I think this parameter here is the reason of why in Switzerland, after a couple of years that we try to introduce an electronic health record at a national level, we have 20,000 patients that have registered. It's pushed in every hospital of the country, but nobody thought about all the work it takes to get the patients on board. Nobody thought about it.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. And we have about 4 minutes. So what I want to do is actually build on this reflection with one question that I see in the Q&A, and just to condense that, and this is to all the panelists. What is the role then of patient awareness and patient education in kind of implementing digitalization in the pharmaceutical industry? And I have a little follow-on bit to add there. We're speaking a lot about digital engagement data, and then we're speaking about the quality of care in a bit of a disparate way. But how do we ensure that with all of this virtual and digitization, that the connection itself with the patient, right, which is coming from a duty of care from the healthcare professionals, from empathy, from protection, from nurturing, how do we retain that in all of this digital engagement? And we just talk about patients like their data, right? So just to summarize, what is the role of patient education and awareness? And while we're doing all of this on this journey, how do we ensure that just human connection with patient populations all around the world?
We are going to be seeing very much different relationship to healthcare as patients when it is going to form in the next, 5 to 10 years. We are going to see much more models coming into place to guide the clinical practice. The doctors that Gregory was basically describing. The new generation of doctors will be supported by assisted models to take better decisions, because the complexity, the comorbidity of some of those diseases are becoming too complex, right? The personalization is forcing us to have those models. So when you start having populations now reacting in models, we are going to be also much more assisted in taking our daily decisions as patients. What do we eat? What do we do sports? You know, what is going to be my lifestyle? And I think this is where those in silico models that we will carry, you know, our phones, are going to provide digital twins that are going to be easier to kind of not educate, but they're going to give us a baseline of what should be a good quality of life or good standard for a remission, a prevention setting, and so on. I think this is where I see a lot of money and startups getting into building digital twins in healthcare for having, yeah, I would say, sustainable model. Yeah.
Thank you. So just in the interest of time, what I'd like to say is thank you all for participating. But if your question wasn't answered, feel free to get in touch with the organizing committee of this webinar session. And I'm pretty sure that they could reroute your questions and make sure that someone is here to answer. And I'm going to hand back the floor to Ana Maria because it's time for closing remarks by Christina. So just want to say thank you very much for bearing with me and for having such an engaging discussion, both the panelists and the audience today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gary. Thank you to all the speakers. This was a very enriching discussion. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm connected live from Lisbon at the Web Summit. So there's a lot of sessions here on these topics, on health, on digital transformation. So I think this was very timely and very enriching to kind of connect this with the sessions that are happening here. So thanks again to everyone, and thanks to the audience, super active audience. I saw the chat was on fire and the Q&A. I saw someone also, I think there was a business transaction, I think, going on in the chat. So that was very interesting. And now I have the great pleasure to move on to the last part of the webinar, the closing remarks. We were going to have Ms. Cristina Buetti. Unfortunately, she cannot join us. She's in another meeting. She has done, oh, she's here. I am sorry, I take that all back. It is such a great honor to introduce what I would call the queen of digital transformation. Ms. Buetti has done so much for the digital transformation topic. She has so much expertise in this space, and I'm so happy that she managed in her busy schedule to connect with us here and give us the closing remark. Thank you so much, Ms. Buetti. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ana Maria. Thank you so much, really, for your kind words, and you know, very much appreciated, especially when they come from a previous colleague. So really, it's nice, and actually glad that that this webinar, you know, really had so many insightful discussion. I think that we can definitely all agree that the transformative power of digital technologies has an immense potential to revolutionize the pharma industry. I would like also to take the opportunity to thank our co-organizers, the International Metaverse Council. I think this is not actually the first time that we had the pleasure to collaborate together. So thank you so much. Allow me also to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Seisonoy, the director of the Telecommunication Standardization Bureau, for his opening remarks that really set the tone for the webinar. And also a special thanks, especially to all our esteemed speakers, moderators, fantastic MC, and to all the comments in the chat, to all the participants that have been super active during this webinar. Your in-depth contribution and expert perspectives have certainly helped to shape our understanding of how digital transformation is impacting the pharma industry, especially in the wake of COVID-19. The discussion today also underscored the importance of leveraging digital technologies to enhance pharmaceutical product development, streamline operational processes, and improve demand and supply forecasting models. This paradigm shift from traditional pharmaceutical value chain operations to digital transformation is not just a futuristic concept, but also a current reality as we strive to meet the world's medical needs. Moreover, we have also heard about the pivotal role of digital transformation in supporting diagnostic procedures and telemedicine channels. So as we draw to a close, let us remember that the journey of digital transformation in the pharma industry is one of continuous learning and adaptation. Our collective aim should be to harness the power of digital technologies to provide better healthcare for all as part of our collective efforts to use digital technologies to accelerate the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. As you have heard, ITU together with WHO and WIPO have been working through the Global Initiative on AI for Health to identify, evaluate, and promote AI innovation for overall healthcare and explore the application of AI for detection and diagnosis as well as for treatment. So if you are interested or would like to find out more about this initiative, please do get in touch with us. We will put in touch with our ITU team. In addition, ITT Study Group 20 on IoT and smart cities and communities, which I have the pleasure to serve as counselor, is working on the development of standards and guidelines related to public health emergency management and also reference architecture for smart services for public health emergencies. So I also would like to take an opportunity really to invite you to join the work of ITT Study Group 20 and help us actually to shape global standards together. I really encourage all of you to continue this conversation beyond this webinar and to keep providing your valuable contribution to the digital health dialogue at ITU. This will certainly help us actually to gain unique insights from your respective fields. As always, the ITU remains your partners of choice for discussion and collaboration in using digital technologies to create a better world. Thank you so much for all your active participation. It's through really such exchanges that we can truly drive innovation and growth. So I really look forward to welcoming all of you to future DT webinars. And a special thanks to the team behind the scene that worked so hard to make this webinar happen. So thank you so much for your attention. The webinar is now closed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.